Hey, 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 everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Our Love Story with the very famous Diana. Hi, Diana. How are you? I need.
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So nice to see you as always.
Likewise.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. I'm so excited.
I know. Before the show, guys, I just have to say this. We were just talking about how absolutely disrespectful it is that there are holiday decorations already up and Halloween hasn't even happened yet. It's absolutely disrespectful. Anyway.
Can we just marinate in spooky season, during the very short, finite time that we get it?
Please.
Can we just do that?
I'm with you.
Anyway.
Anyway.
Making it my personal mission to wear something like Halloween or spooky related every day between now and Halloween.
Agreed.
So
I'm going to push that it's the next proposition on the ballot. So anyway.
Reasonable. I'd vote.
So today, guys, we're going to dive into something that is oh so trendy, I feel like, and I am seeing it all over social media. It's in every conversation. We're talking about AI. AI is out there, available to use. It's a free service in many respects, right? Like we can use it for free if you are a Chat GPT person or what Gemini just came out. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't know. I could sit here and rattle off all of the AI programs that are available out there now. But what we're seeing, Diana, and this is what we truly want to talk about here, is we're seeing people go to AI for their relationship advice or mental health advice.
Yes.
And that could be a dangerous thing, I'm thinking, yes?
Absolutely. Very dangerous thing. There are several reasons why, AI and technology, and we're evolving and adapting to it. It definitely has its benefits, but there are certainly some ways that it can work against us and be really dangerous for us and for our mental health, as well as we have seen in recent times in different stories and different news articles and things like that, where some of our ideas are being empathized and validated potentially in very dangerous ways. And we take some of those ideas maybe even a little further than we initially thought we were going to. And that can have very dire and sometimes deadly consequences. So it can be very dangerous to rely on AI for mental health support.
Yeah. Do you have any, and not to put you on the spot, but do you have any specific examples perhaps of maybe some recent articles or some things that you might have dealt with just with your own clients that you can bring up to sort of illustrate to us, hey, this is where AI goes wrong?
Yeah, I've seen it occasionally, in my office, people that have just I used, Chat GPT just to ask them these questions. And they were like, well, in this way, it was great. They told me about coping skills and things like that. I'm like, okay, cool. But the empathy that you get isn't a human being's empathy, right? So it's a little bit different. And so most of my clients will tell me yeah, I used it for this and that, in a pinch, and kind of worked. It was kind of cool, but not something that I would rely on all the time. In a macro scope, there have been, I don't have one ready right now, but I could certainly get one for later,
Sure.
About people who have, suicidal ideation and trigger warning, by the way, that have suicidal ideation and are using ChatGPT to talk about their suicidal ideation. And when you have a system that lacks a whole bunch of things that we're going to get into in a little bit, it's going to sort of encourage maybe certain toxic thoughts that you're having, and teach or show you ways that you could get the job done, so to speak, when you're looking to do something very specific to yourself. It doesn't have the objectivity or the crisis management or the ethical platform to be hold on a minute, don't want to do that because that's going to have a really bad consequence. No, it just tells you this is how you could do it. And so in some cases that has emboldened people to do those things because they were told how to do it. And it has resulted, recently in the last year or so, has resulted in people taking their own lives because they did get that affirmation from AI without having that human element there to get them the help that they needed.
Wow, that hits hard because it's designed to give you what you want, right?
Exactly. There's no pushback.
Right. It's not going to call you out. It's not going to say, hey, just like a human hopefully would,
right.
A friend or a professional hopefully would be like, yo, red flag. maybe we need to move to, a different solution or a different resource or something like that. It's just going to keep out what you want.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what's really scary. And with, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're the ones that are born into all of this technology. The last generation were the millennials that knew what life was like before, and then we kind of had to adapt to it. And now we're obviously adapting to it now. But when you're a generation born into having these resources available to you, it certainly lacks a lot of perspective and context. And it's so readily available. So when it's left unchecked and parents aren't aware of what their kids are looking at, it can be really, really scary and really, really dangerous.
I feel like it can be super isolating too. Not that we need more reasons to isolate ourselves, but if I befriend AI and my AI bot is designed to give me what I want, so it feeds that need for me, now all of a sudden that's my bestie.
Yeah, because it gives you like a false sense of empathy, right? Like it can say the things, it can emulate empathy, it can like spit out some things that are like, something that someone with empathy would be showing you or saying to you, but it's not real. It's not like a human to human connection, but someone who is more isolated, lonely, is capitalizing on that, would probably feel less of an immediate need to get that human connection from somebody else in their real life, because they are getting a piece of that fulfilled. And sometimes that can adversely affect not only just like individuals, but relationships too. There was an interesting comedic value, right? But there was an episode of South Park last season where Stan's dad had like an AI like that he was talking to. And he was always asking it for like advice or input, and then telling his wife like, oh, she says such and such. And like, yeah, it's funny. It's South Park, you know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, no, there are people that are really doing that. It brings the concept of phubbing, which if no one's familiar with that, it's like being parallel next to each other, but like being on your phones, like not actually connecting with each other, but connecting on your phones. Like it brings that to a whole new level. Like not only am I like facing away from you and on my phone when you're right next to me, but like I am engaging with a non-human entity essentially that is giving me all this empathy or giving me the things that like I don't know how to ask you for, or maybe I've asked you for and like I'm not getting. But it's certainly putting a wall up between like growing a relationship and improving in a relationship when you already have that resource there, you know what I mean? So just like a whole new element of social media and internet access that we already had, right? Chat rooms and OnlyFans and Instagram and like all those things where you could make connections with real humans. Now it just brings it to a whole other level where we're not even requiring it be like a real human anymore, which is scary.
Super scary. And I don't know if this is something that you have seen in your office or with your clients, but this is something, see, with the MOMnation group, I kind of get a bird's eye view, right? Like I see all of these posts, I see a lot of different conversations. Diana, there are some people out there that are like sexting with their AI bot. Let's dive into that and the dangers there, especially when you're in a relationship with a real live human.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really closely in line with, pornography use. And in some relationships, pornography use is totally fine. And that's fine as long as everyone's on the same page. What expectations are is totally cool. But in some relationships, it's not. And so it kind of feels like a backdoor scenario of like, well, I'm not using pornography and it's not even a real person. So you don't have to worry about me cheating on you with this person because it's not real. Like it's just like AI. And so it's fun and it's, there's no commitment needed or anything like that. But at the same time, it still puts a divide between that person and their partner and being able to explore and engage in sexual intimacy in different ways. And in that way, it can also be dangerous too, because it can also entertain and foster sometimes, harmful or toxic or dangerous sexual behaviors that could be carried out in real life because, AI said it was fine and was responding to it and things like that. And so again, it's like that's that fulfilling, like there's no pushback ever. It's just giving you like what you want and reinforcing what you want, not being challenged. And that's scary and that's dangerous for us as humans to just not be challenged in our thought processes.
Yeah, totally agree. And something that you said made me think it's pulling from the internet, right? Like it's pulling its information from the internet. It's scouring all these different websites, articles, things like that. So can we really fully rely on the information that we're getting?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, right? It's like,
Right.
and then what is the question of reliability? If somebody's not looking for reliability, they're just looking for something that fulfills them and just feeds whatever thought process that they had. Like if it's affirming that, then like what's reliability? What does that matter? As long as it's affirming what I'm already thinking or what I already believe, you know?
And I can see how, just in your example about the South Park thing, hey, my AI said this. I can see how people are like, well, this is truth. This is real. Like this is, the answer. This is right. When it might just be built on misinformation.
And lack of objectivity, lack of nuance, lack of so many things that AI just can't do like what a human can do. You know what I mean? Or like a trained therapist can do. Like AI can't do those things,
Do you see any benefit for AI in your industry with respect to your clients or even you as a provider?
I think there's the benefit in if you're looking for something that's pretty like surface level, like something like I mentioned earlier, like, what's a different type of coping skill I can use for this? You know what I mean? Like this thing isn't working. Like what can I do for this instead? I think that it's almost like using it as like a generic Google search for things like that. I think there's value in that. I've never personally, as a provider, I know plenty of providers that have used like ChatGPT and stuff like that just to get some answers. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as you're layering that in with the ethical responsibility that's required as being a therapist as well. But I mean, if it's a resource, cool, you can explore it, but you also have to have the objectivity to understand that, like, to be able to decipher, like, okay, well, this isn't good. And maybe there is a little bit of value here. So I think if it's used as sort of like a Google search sort of mechanism, but also with discernment, with also being able to decide like, does this feel like it tracks, or is this, because, just like a Google search, you click on something, you're like, that's not right. I don't think that's accurate.
Exactly.
But having that level of discernment, sometimes people don't want that. When they're looking for something to like fulfill, again, like affirm what they're saying, they may not want that sort of discernment. And ChatGPT is all about just giving you what exactly it is that you think you want.
That you ask for. Exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Any other dangers or any other aspects of this whole thing that you feel are important to bring up?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure there's people listening that are just like, well, why exactly would it be a bad idea to use it outside of like some of the things that we just mentioned? But there are some more like nuanced reasons too that ChatGPT just cannot fill the role that like a trained like therapist or counselor can do. And one of those things is like cultural competency. You know what I mean? It's something that we're all trained in, being able to understand the nuances of different cultures and different expectations. That's an important skill that we have to have and that we have to be consistently trained on, that AI is not. You know what I mean? So something that might be a problem for your relationship, that AI might say, oh, no, that's not a problem, but culturally it might be for you, or vice versa. And they don't have the nuance to understand like why that might be an issue for you. You know what I mean? So some of the cultural competency is a huge part of, again, like what we're trained and ongoing to do is to understand some of those nuances. And you're just not going to get that from AI. So the cultural part is huge. Also understanding context and nuance in our language. You know what I mean? So like if you're sitting in front of a therapist and you're just like, oh my God, like I had this fight with my husband and I totally crashed out. You know what I mean? Like, well, what does that mean? Like your therapist could be like, well, what does that mean? Or like, you were saying last week about how, you were really fatigued and feeling very overwhelmed and burnt out at work, and like all of those things that your human therapist is going to know is going on. And they're also going to explore more of like, what does that mean crashing out? Like, what does that mean? Like, oh, I snapped at him. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that like you yelled at him? Does that mean that you hit him was like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? And so like, let's figure out what that means before I give you, you know, more guidance on that. Right. Instead of what you could possibly be getting from ChatGPT or AI, you know what I mean? So like, they don't know the nuances or like the context of where you're coming from, especially if you already built that relationship with your therapist. They're going to know where you're coming from. They're going to know like your life. They're going to know the things that you've told them and be able to put things together. Oh, that makes sense because you were activated when he said that because of this fight that you guys had, you know, 6 months ago. And I'm sure that had something to do with it. And, you know, ChatGPT and AI is not going to be able to recall those details either, you know?
That's such a great point. And chat's not going to say, well, what do you mean by crashing out? It's just going to
it's
by
just going to go
program.
into, yeah, exactly.
And then all of a sudden, again, you're building on misinformation.
Again, right.
Right.
There's, you know, there's also the confidentiality piece. Like, we don't know exactly how confidential it is when you're inputting this information and like where the information could possibly be stored or how it could be retrieved. And confidentiality is hugely important to any, you know, healthcare provider. And it's super important to me. I tell my clients, you know, every time I meet them for the first time for the intake is like, you know, if I see you in public, I'm going to completely ignore you, not because I'm trying to be rude, but because I'm just trying to protect your privacy. And you're not going to get anything out of me outside of this room. You know what I mean? And I value that really highly. And I know a lot of other clinicians do too. And we don't know where some of that information is going. And so you can't really guarantee the confidentiality of that. And that's super scary too, because you don't want any of those details, like just, you know, out there somewhere, wherever on the internet, you know what I mean, to be retrieved possibly at some other time.
For sure. So as of late in YouTube land, so I love watching YouTube. There have been a couple of influencers that I follow that have mentioned recently, hey, by the way, those chats that you think that you got rid of, that you think that you deleted, you didn't. And they can still be, you know, brought up. They can still be shared, whatever it is that happens to that information. Again, do we really know? And then we all know I love true crime. This stuff is starting to get brought into court cases and it's starting to become evidence. And that's not to say that, you know, if somebody really truly did the crime and used AI to do it, sure, that evidence is really important, but it does speak to that privacy piece of it where you guys are like, that is your whole deal, right? Like you guys are very, very, like you mentioned, if you see a client out in public, you're not going to say anything because you're protecting their privacy. Chat's not doing that.
No, nothing on the internet is truly private, is it? Once it's out there, it's out there. Truly. There's a whole generation of parents now that be prepared for your kids to find some of that stuff later on because everything is on the internet forever.
That is so funny and so true. And, you know, I thank my lucky stars. Just kidding. I wasn't a bad kid. But I am glad the internet wasn't truly around and social media wasn't truly around when I was growing up because,
there's no evidence. There's no evidence.
It definitely, I could see how it can make parenting just a little bit harder.
Totally. Where in the back of our minds, we're thinking like, oh no, we don't want them to do that, but we're certainly not going to tell them that we did that or anything remotely close to that. You know what I mean? So, you know, the confidentiality too is tied into safety in general, right? And that's not something that AI can discern or ChatGPT can discern. You know, you could be putting content or information in there, asking questions that are directly related to your safety. And while there might be some, you know, elementary safeguards in place there, it is not a human being to be able to discern and say like, okay, we need a safety plan. We need to put something together so that you are safe and give you these resources and, you know, all of that stuff. And like, a trained like therapist is going to hop right in there and make sure that like you have a plan, that you have a safety plan, you have a crisis plan, and not just going to tell you like, you know, call this hotline or whatever, but actually put a plan in place for you. And using that as a resource instead of like a human being can be really dangerous too, and put people in situations, again, because of the confidentiality piece, like what if somebody finds that, like that you're trying to get away from, or that you're trying to protect yourself from. So the lack of safeguards, just keeping humans safe, just keeping people safe, is just severely lacking too. And that's also something that concerns me,
Yeah, understandably so. Is there anything else? And I know that this is a big conversation, right? So there's probably lots of other things, but is there anything else that you feel would be important to add to this episode?
Nothing beats human-to-human connection. Therapy is based on relationships. It's based on the relationship you create with your therapist, whether you're in there individually or as a couple. Like, that's where the work begins, is when you have that solid relationship with your therapist. Nothing compares to human-to-human connection, and nothing compares to empathy provided by the human connection, and not just like this hollow sense of regurgitated words and buzzwords to provide empathy. And pushback, and challenging you to, reframe your thinking, or to challenge your thoughts. Like, nothing compares to that relationship with someone that you can be safe with, that can help challenge you and push you and protect you in ways that AI just can't.
Totally agree. I think that's giant. So many things come to mind, but again, I feel like this is a huge conversation, and we've really touched on a lot of valuable parts. So I thank you so much for that, because again, I am seeing this all over the place. People are using this resource that is great, but maybe for, not so great things, or things that it might not be so great at, I should say.
Right.
So. All right, my friend, still doing your consultations, yes?
I am. You can go to my website, dianaeiseltherapy.com, click on schedule a consult, or fill out the submission form, and I'll get back to you within about 24 hours.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for doing that for our audience. And if you guys want to check out any of our previous episodes, Diana and I have been at this for quite some time now. I'm going to say many years at this point.
Many years.
We have tons of content, lots of different topics that I'm sure will interest you, relationship related. Hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at MOMnation USA. That's our handle. Scroll down just a little ways. You will see the Our Love Story playlist. That's where we are. If you prefer to listen podcast style, maybe you drive around a lot, walk a lot, hike a lot, bike a lot. Beautiful weather now. So please get out there and move your body. Oh, it's just been lovely. Hop on over to your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for MOMnation Talk Radio. There you're going to find us, like, follow, download, click the little bell so you get notified, all the things. You will never miss a beat, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much, Diana.
Bye.
Bye.
Struggling to reconnect with yourself or the ones you love? Meet Diana Eisel, a licensed marriage and family therapist, here to support your journey toward connection and clarity. She helps you feel seen, heard, and supported as you grow through life's challenges, emotionally, sexually, and relationally. A safe, judgment-free space where growth can begin. Come as you are and grow into who you're becoming. Reach out today and take your first step toward healing with Diana